This episode of the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast has been brought to you by our sponsors at Sweet Cheetah Publicity. Sweet Cheetah is a PR collective that values people over profit. They put a different spin on public relations by working primarily with friends and using all profits to aid charitable organizations. With a roster that includes Jawbox, The New Amsterdams, Brainiac, Get Some, Funeral Date, Damian Dunn, and many more artists, record labels, and podcasts. Sweet Cheetah. That's a great PR cohort. You can find them on social media by simply searching Sweet Cheetah PR, and they'll be there. He's been Tim. I've been Peter, and Sweet Cheetah has been beautiful.
Hey Peter, first off, congratulations on the 100th episode. It's badass. Can't wait to be back. We'll be back soon. That first podcast that we did together really gave me the opportunity to express myself. And, I look forward to doing it again with you. Congratulations again.
Watching book.
Peter, Jeremy here, post-looperish. Congrats on 100 episodes. That's an amazing feat. I always enjoy listening to all the musicians you have on here, both ones that are known and unknown, so keep it up, and thanks for supporting the unknown musicians, and here's to many more hundreds of episodes.
This is Tim Anderl from Sweet Cheetah Publicity. I was just wanting to share a message of congratulations to Peter and the Book of Very, Very Bad Things on the amazing podcast podzine that he's created and nurtured over 100 episodes now. So that's an incredible feat. And I'm so proud to be able to call him a friend, and to have something so incredible and informative to listen to each week. I'm really, really excited about the upcoming LYCI episode, and know that will be just an awesome thing to listen to and experience. And so congratulations to the book and Peter, and kudos to all the guests who have participated in the podcast in the past. It's an incredible listen, and in no small part because of the love and attention that Peter puts into it. So congratulations, and look forward to listening to the 100th episode. Bye.
Hello, it's Jack from Soft Right here, and I am putting in a little message to congratulate Peter and the Book of Very, Very Bad Things for the 100th episode. And I'm just contributing my little message here. I recently had the chance to do a very long interview with Peter. One that I got up from a nap to, and I was probably not as articulate as I probably wanted to have been, but it was a fascinating conversation nonetheless. I really enjoyed Peter as a host. I had never talked to him before, except for through a few emails leading up to the conversation, but I felt really at ease when I was getting into the conversation, which threaded through many, many different topics. And then the next thing you know, it's 3 hours and 15 minutes later and 5 a.m. here in the UK. But I really like Peter's podcast. It's very unique. I like the very frank, meandering, conversational vibe of it. And prior to my interview with Peter, I had a really good listen through some of the other podcasts, and it's definitely a lot of interesting topics discussed, and the conversation just seemed really natural. So I was happy to be a part of it. And I wish the Peter and the Book of Very, Very Bad Things all the best in the future, and I hope this is a great 100th episode for all of you to enjoy. Thank you. Soft Riot.
Hey, what's up? This is Chad Stroup, author of Strange Fiction and vocalist for Ice Peeled. Just wishing the Book of Very, Very Bad Things a happy 100th episode. Hope to see 100 more. Peter knows his shit more than the average podcast host, and I'm looking forward to talking to him again in the nearish future. Peace.
Hey, Adam here from Peace Through Decay. Important, entertaining, and real. Those three words are the first things I think of when I think of the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. Peter, you're putting passion back into music journalism and more, keeping it alive and well with thorough conversations that have kept me and others in good company as we listen. Thank you for all that you do, and congratulations on 100. Here's to 100 more.
Hey, this is Tony from Funeral Date. I just wanted to say congratulations to Peter on making it to 100 episodes. That's crazy. Peter's super cool dude. I'm glad that I got to meet him. I'm glad I got to be on there because there's so many bands that I love that have been on there, and I guess I can call them peers. I don't know, it feels really weird, but got these cicadas going crazy out here. I figured that's a good atmosphere for this. But yeah, super glad I got to meet Peter. He's a great dude to have in your corner. I'm glad I do. And congratulations again, and here's to 100 more.
This is Cy from Violet Silhouette. Congratulations, Peter, on your 100th episode on the Book of Very Bad Things podcast. Probably my favorite podcast, and one that it was a big pleasure to be a guest on. We went right into it, talked a little bit about music, our backgrounds, our inspirations, and dove right into death, dying, dreams, the unconscious. We talked about spirituality, finding oneself, losing oneself, doing it all over again, our biggest fears, our biggest regrets, the process of how we try to, as one would say, find our voice, find our voice, find our voice, find our voice, find our voice.
What's up? What's up, Daddy?
Hi, this is Eugenius, wishing the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast a happy 100th episode. Had a great time talking about punk and hip-hop and everything in between, and hopefully I'll be back. Very glad I was a part of it. Congrats.
Hey Peter, happy 100th episode. Congratulations on that. That's amazing. I remember when you interviewed me for Zunic and the Doom Choir, and it was the beginning of this new war, and since I was a vet, and your father was in the war, we had a lot in common, and it was a very kind conversation. Even though we might disagree on some of the war stuff now, or we might agree, it was still a good conversation that we needed to have, especially with people that have been there. Plus the music, your music is your music taste, and everything having to do with your music taste is amazing. From your love of post metal, post rock, to punk, hardcore, everything that you listen to is pretty amazing. I found a lot of good artists. One of my favorite artists I found through the book was Queen of the Static Opera. Like her song "Delete, Delete, Delete" is still one of my favorite songs. So, thanks for all you do. You're a voice for us underground artists, and we really appreciate it. So, thank you very much.
Peter, congratulations on 100 episodes. I don't know if this is gonna make the cut because this is about my own interview. But what I remember is it was such a blast that I kept forgetting that it was a podcast. I kept thinking that we were just hanging out, which, I mean, I guess we were. Happy to know you, man. Glad that we stayed in touch. It was so great. And I'm really glad we made that connection, that we're living this life. Happy 100th.
Hello and welcome to another edition the 100th edition of the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. I'm your host, Peter, and for the 100th time, I am still here. That final clip was of Scott Padden from the great and wonderful Pilot to Gunner, as he didn't introduce himself in the clip, which is fine because I knew it was him. Oh, that was just a few of the many video clips and audio clips that I'd received from people who had taken part in this podcast. I don't deserve any of you. I'm getting choked up. I mean, this started out, as I've said many times, just, during COVID, my wife kept telling me, listen, you can do a podcast. You have the friends in the community and the life experience, playing music, being in the hardcore and punk scene, and, music's your life. Why not do a podcast? And she was right. It turned into something far greater than I could have ever imagined. And most of it is because of the artists that come on to the show, and even more so, the listener who, makes this worth making, truly. I'm sorry. This is for you all, and I appreciate each and every one of you, and it's been such a blast, and I'm going to keep doing it if you'll keep listening. So it is quite conceivable that there will be a 200th episode special. This is going to be part one. There will be two parts to this 100th episode extravaganza, as I had gleaned so much material and had gotten such a response from everyone that there's so many voices that need to be heard in the context of this episode. So welcome to part one. I hope you dig it. But tonight, I have such special, such wonderful people joining me in Mike VanPortfleet, Tara Van Flower, and Dirk VanPortfleet, LYCI. And to make it extra special, as I've been teasing, Mike will be playing an acoustic rendering of a LYCI classic for all of us. And as he has sworn off of interviews for the foreseeable future, this may be the last time you get to hear him interviewed for quite a while. So savor it, because he jumped in for the full treatment. Strap in. If you're into imbibing alcoholic beverages, crack one open, or pour one off, or twist one up if you're into smoking things. Whatever you're digging, whatever you love to do or not do, do that. And then sit down with us, and we'll try to make it as intimate as possible. We don't talk about music all that much in this episode. It's really about mostly life, mostly the goings-on in our respective worlds, as it should be. Because the members of LYCI are like family to me. And this is a family episode. All of the people who popped up thus far in the beginning of this are family. And so are you. And I mean that I'm not being hyperbolic. I absolutely mean it. We are our own little community, and I owe it all to all of you. I love you all. I appreciate you all. And with that being said, without further ado, I give to you Mike, Tara, and eventually Dirk on the Book of Very, Very Bad Things 100th episode special, baby. Dig it.
If I'm the hard to win this, I win. Pushing
So I'm glad that you decided, even though you're on hiatus, I'm glad you showed up for this, because this is the 100th episode of the show. And the reason why I was doing this is just kind of bringing it full circle. You know, I mean, I started the first band group, whatever, was LYCI. It was only appropriate to me that the 100th episode be you guys. And I'm so happy to see you playing guitar again, man. That makes me very, very happy.
I thank you for, everything you've done for LYCI in these last few years. And it's an honor to be on the 100th show. It's awesome. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. I never thought I'd make it this far, to be honest with you. But yeah, just the inertia's there, it's working out. So you're kind of toying with the idea of playing again, huh?
Well, I struggle with this all the time, but I've been working really hard just playing guitar. I sort of bringing it back right around to what it was like when I first started back in the early 80s. And I want it just to be about playing. I think over the years I got a little too preoccupied with technology. And that is eventually what sort of took me away from playing live, worrying about, feedback or having the effects sounding right, needing a sound person. And I want it just to be about picking a guitar up and playing. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, ever since COVID. And I've been pushing myself, seeing my son go to music lessons and learn music theory and learn how to play the piano. It made me think, that's what music is about. Sure, there's the underground spirit and everything, but to actually be able to push yourself as a musician, which I haven't done since the 80s. The 90s was all just about learning new technologies and how, getting more and more experience in the studio and with effects. And now I just find myself getting frustrated anytime I go back to the technology, and I find myself most satisfied with just playing the guitar.
Yeah.
And so if anything happens, it's just going to be the acoustic guitar and my vocals. I feel more comfortable. Maybe some reverb thrown in there, maybe not, I don't know. But I just want it to be performance-based.
And it's kind of fortuitous then that your birthday gift, which, happy belated birthday, was that acoustic guitar from Tara and Dirk.
Yeah, she has a way to manipulate stuff. In the 2000s, I was completely checked out musically, and then she was going to do a solo show, and I was very reluctantly helping her with the sound. And I really didn't want to do it. I just wanted to go over and watch. But then she bought me this electric guitar. Brand new electric guitar, and one thing led to another, and then I played a couple songs at the show, and then work on Fifth Son, and then we recorded all these other albums. So the guitar sort of jump started the second wave of LYCI. So maybe this will jump start a new era. I don't know.
Everything is by design.
Yeah, and kind of the beauty of it is, though, is you're self-directed, so you don't have anyone telling you have to do this now. You've never been beholden to anyone in that capacity, so you're on your own time. But I am very interested in hearing what this iteration would be on acoustic guitar, especially new material, anything new you would bring to the table, because the way you'd layered guitar with electric guitar with electronics, I would love to see what you would do with just a lush arrangement of acoustic instrumentation as the sole driver of the music.
I'm coming from a completely different angle now. Before COVID, I was an electric guitar player. I played with a pick. When I did play acoustic guitar, I did big strumming, but it was all with pick. I haven't used a pick in 2 years now. I've switched over to finger picking. I work really hard to play the guitar in a classical style in regards to how I hold the guitar, the knee I rested on. I've completely reinvented. It's almost like I learned a completely new instrument. And I'm not working on anything new with the exception of maybe things that I'm using as intros to songs. What I'm doing more is I'm going back and revisiting songs from the past that I never thought I could ever play on the acoustic guitar, and I'm discovering that I can. And that's been pretty exciting. So it's rediscovering a lot of songs that are electronic songs, but playing them on the guitar. And hopefully if it all pans out, and in worst case scenario, maybe it just becomes a rebranded LYCI YouTube channel where maybe once or twice a month I go do a couple songs and record them better. The other element of this is that I built up a bunch of foot pedal effects like Eventide black hole pedals and Earthquaker devices, Afterneath, and I'm using those on the vocals and on the guitar. So I'm trying to find this perfect mix of natural in the room sound. I really want it to sound natural and in the room with this underlying just wall of lush warm reverb. That's what I'm going for. And a few weeks ago I put a post on Facebook looking for a sound person. Yeah, and I got a lot of people saying, yeah, I could do that, but just from my past experience where I had a lot of sound people back in the 90s saying, yeah, no problem, I can handle this. And then I step up to the mic, and as I'm walking up to the mic, the feedback starts even before my mouth opens. So I'm a little cynical about it, but a couple people seem pretty interesting, but I don't know. I don't want to think too far ahead. It's one step at a time, you know?
Yeah, you have to allow it to be organic. If you force it, nothing forced ever it never has any good return, you know? And now if you just allow it to occur, then it's kismet, then it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So outside of all of that, you're feeling well now, you're feeling strong. Is this new iteration, is this going to be, as you said, kind of like not maybe LYCI Mach 3, but could it be like when you've done your solo records? Could it be something more akin to that?
I think it's going to be something completely different. It's not going to be, first of all, there's not going to be any new music. I think last time I talked to you, I told you I was taking the studio down. The studio's down. I have zero intentions to put it together. I think it's just going to be, it potentially could just be me doing stuff under my own name, just acoustic songs and just playing music. It really is just, you know, where I'm at in my life now. I just want to revisit things that I've done and reconnect with certain things. I don't think my plans are any farther than that. This could potentially lead to a bunch of shows. It could potentially lead to nothing. I'm trying to just not overthink things and just become a better musician and see where it takes me. And so I don't want to get too far ahead on that, but no big plans really. I'm just, you know, if it happens, it happens. I'm hoping that I can maybe do some shows, but you know, it's hit or miss with me. I mean, one day I'll just nail things and it feels really good, and then the next day I'll just botch a song and my confidence will just be gone, and I'm just like, I'm not doing this. So I think in the past I tended to overthink things and think too far ahead, but now it's just really just the block of time, perhaps even in just hours ahead of me, is as far as I'm thinking.
It's a beautiful place to be. So I won't bug you too much longer, but I want to thank you, you know, for not only coming on the show as many times as you have, but, you know, it's always, I don't know, the way you look at music, I strive to. I'm in a similar situation. I haven't played in a while. I don't know how that will ever turn out if I do, but if I do return to it, I would like to view it through the same lens that you do, and I find that very inspiring.
Well, the way I feel a lot of times, it seems weird that I would inspire somebody because I'm generally an insecure mess. I'm not even the time. You know, I when the word got out that I might be doing shows, I got approached about doing a couple shows, including a local one, and my initial reaction was, I can't do that. I'll just fail. And last week when Tara said, "Hey, do you want to go on the show and this show right here and do a song?" I somewhat panicked and said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that, you know." So I got up this morning and practiced and had a good practice. I'm like, "Hey, today seems like a day that maybe I can't do this." So, yeah, it's, you know, but I think the glory of it at this stage is that because I had a very satisfying second round with music, I don't really feel like there are any, you know, things that I left unfinished, which back in, you know, 2000, 2001, I felt as though I left things unfinished. I feel satisfied now. I mean, I could just disappear and I think I would be fine. I would be fine with it. You know, now I just want to play the guitar, and if it just means that I'm playing in front of Tara, Dirk, and our dogs every night, I'm fine with that. Or if I can get motivated enough to get out and maybe play, you know, a small show someplace or even a big show, then that's just extra added bonus.
That's wonderful. That's the part I find inspiring, just having the, you know, self-satisfaction to just have, I can do it, great. I could not, fantastic. That's the part I find most inspiring, because I'm an insecure mess as well. And honestly, like when my former band members are in new bands, I get jealous. I'm like, what about me? God damn it. Like, you know, and, that's why I find it inspiring, because I have to find it within myself to just be confident enough to say, you know what, have a blast.
Yeah,
I can do it or not. Oh well.
It's hard because I see some people that are roughly my age, maybe a little older, that are out there still doing it, and my thought is, why are you still doing this? You're sort of destroying your legacy. But I see other people that are doing it, and they're just continuing to add to their legacy. We went and saw The Cure not long ago, and I thought, wow, they're not doing any damage at all.
No.
In fact, they're just making me more impressed by them. You know, I came out of there, I'm a fan of stuff like Pornography and their early stuff, and so I went there thinking, I don't really know. And I left there, and now I have a new appreciation for their pop songs because they did just a great show. And then a band like Killing Joke, you know, they're still just hammering out, and you still have the respect for them. But there's other bands, and it's a precipice that's a little bit frightening. Am I going to go out there and am I going to be perceived as somebody that is doing it right, or am I going to go someplace and have people say, "Oh man, this isn't what I was expecting. This is a disappointment." I live in constant fear of disappointing people. When we toured back in the 90s, I think almost every single show we played, when people came up and talked to me after the show, the very first thing I said was, "I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Because I always felt that our shows were subpar because we never could bring along the sound reinforcement and the lights and everything that we would need to present the music as it should have been presented live. So I just felt like I was like letting people down. And it's my great fear. I don't want to come back and play a show and have people be disappointed. Like, I sit there and I think about these show offers that we get in Europe, and I'm very apprehensive, because if they advertise it as LYCI and people from all over the continent show up to see us play, and then I'm up on stage playing an acoustic guitar, I don't want to have to deal with people going, "Oh my gosh, I was expecting the big orchestrations of Cold or the lush sound of Burning Circle, and all I got was this old guy up there playing acoustic guitar. What a rip-off. I'll never listen to them again." You know?
But see, the LYCI's legacy is such that, you know, you guys didn't play a whole lot of live shows. It's not like you were tour monsters. So every time you did play somewhere, it became almost kind of thing of legend. The handful of times I'd seen you and my compatriots, you know, they're like, "Oh my God, remember that time?" Like it was because it's not like we went to see Biohazard for the 80th time, or, you know, there was an element of almost like surprise to it, or event is a better way to put it, because it didn't happen often. And when it did, it was very special. Also, in the same token, I don't think you could really let anybody down showing up playing an acoustic guitar, because I think the interest is such that people just want to see you. I truly believe that. I don't think you're going to go out there and have a bunch of people go, "Oh, old guy with guitar." It's like they signed up for that shit. That's why they're coming to see you. You know, I don't think you're seeing it through the same lens that I am, though, because you're you.
I'm the insecure mess.
Yeah, I'm just the insecure mess who enjoys your insecure mess.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where this goes. I don't know. You know.
We'll hope for the best. That's it.
Hope for the best. All right. Well, either way, I think it at least there'll be perhaps maybe better recorded videos, or maybe a relaunched YouTube channel. I just need to have something. I can't just walk away from music, you know. I always be part of me, and so I like to work towards things, even if it's just something like just doing videos around the house. It just makes me feel like I'm doing something, and that, you know, I don't want to get caught into that, just going to my day job and, you know, getting lost and frustrated in that, you know. So,
well, I guess my final question is not to torture you completely. What has been, in the revisitation of your prior work via the acoustic guitar, what has been your single, like, most happy surprise that you were able to pull it off acoustically?
Well, there's a couple, and I would say Bear from Cold. I'm coming from a completely different angle, and I'm still working on it. That one, I really hope I can pull that one off. The other one is Granada from Ionia, which I'm completely coming from a different angle also. I mean, you figure Granada is using those exotic scales, those Spanish gypsy scales.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm using the guitar in that manner, that sort of flamenco classical flavor for that. But it's turning out to be very challenging, because I'm sort of ramping up what I play on the guitar, and I still have to sing on top of it. But I'm making strides. You know, I don't want to just go out there and just do all the tripping songs and some of the Burning Circle songs where I'm just strumming. I really want to incorporate some finger picking and some more, maybe a bit more advanced stuff. So, sort of giving myself until this fall to really push, you know, the practice and see where it takes me. I think in the fall, I'll have a better gauge of whether I feel confident enough to do this or not, you know. There's a greyhound here that desperately wants my attention, so.
Obviously.
Yeah. So if you wonder why occasionally I'm like looking out the side of my eyes or moving, I'm pushing the dog away.
Yeah, well, I see him.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the 100th episode. You're one of the few people that I actually will lift my no interview stance now. So most people I won't, but I enjoy talking to you. You know, we're kindred spirits, and so
yes.
I will talk to you later. I'll turn Tara back over here, and you guys can go on with podcast episode 100.
Thank you, my brother.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Mother, 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 where's all the time gone?
Yeah, there's all female dogs have that propensity to love the male of the house. Our beagle, for example, is just like that. To the point where she doesn't dislike my wife, but she can kind of take or leave her.
Yeah, yeah. Jiggy definitely likes her dad, and Osiris is definitely a mama's girl. Or boy, I guess. Mama's boy.
Yeah. Well, at least you only just have the two. I still have a zoo over here.
Yeah, you do. How many dogs do you have now?
3 dogs, 3 cats, a toddler, my record collection. We have a lot going on.
Yeah.
But, I need the chaos. Apparently, I would be orderly and live a simple life, but I wouldn't be very happy. I don't think.
Yeah.
I need that. Being oldest of 6 kids thing. I have to have the house exploding in order for me to feel alive, I guess.
That makes sense. It makes sense. So, I mean, like sometimes because, Mike and I are older parents, obviously, but it's so hard to remember life before Dirk being here. And like, I already dread the return of that. Like, I can't even imagine his kids take up so much space. Physically and just energetically, and I can't even imagine going back to being just the 2 boring people that we are, just sitting in the house. Like I can't even pay. Thankfully, we have a ways to go, but it's coming quicker than we all know. I mean, he's going into 7th grade, and I'm just like, you're more than halfway through school now.
Yeah,
it's just wild. But anyway.
Yeah, it's getting my daughter's in graduate school. My son isn't even in preschool yet. He goes to a school, but it's like not really even preschool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like in my 60s when he's 18. I'm old.
That's wild.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this getting old shit.
I hate it. The burning passion. I really do. Like, it's so not fair that your body just doesn't work anymore.
That's the existential crisis of those who are, past their like late 30s, early 40s. Mm-hmm. Your things start to give out and you feel like helpless to the tide.
Yeah. Like it's not anything you're doing. Your body's just like, nope, not doing that no more. You see these memes every once in a while about, I finally got a good night of sleep and my body's like, oh, well, sorry. Now your back doesn't work. Like you slept weird. Now you can't walk for a week.
Yep. I mean, I've had, 3 surgeries in the past 4 years. That's and 2 work-related injuries. All of this is work-related. All my surgeries, everything, it's all from work. Yeah. I've reached the point now where I can no longer ply my trade safely.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, and you think about when you're younger, you could run on like an hour of sleep and you're running all over town and going to this show and standing for like 8 hours and then out in the sun when it's 98 degrees and you've had like half a bottle of water and you're fine. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm like, I got to stand to watch this thing for more than 15 minutes. And I'm not doing that. I'm going to sit on the floor or leave, one or the other.
Yeah. what's scarier about all of it too is watching these people that were pop stars or whatever dying off in increasingly terrible ways, like Sinead O'Connor, for example, being the subject of the moment. How I can't even quantify it, because I remember being like this young teenager and she comes out and like we're not used to seeing a bald, beautiful Irish woman with this like absolutely
angel voice,
angelic glass-like voice. Obviously she had some kind of problems back then, because who else is running around shaving their head and outside of me back
and ripping
then.
up pictures of the Pope on national TV,
Absolutely. There's some shit going on there, but I guess we take it for granted in a way, even though we're both musicians as well. All of these people, even the ones who have reached affluence, are still suffering from something.
Absolutely.
She's a very perfect example of that, having been through all of her life's travails and suffering from mental illness on top of it all. But I find it very frustrating that all of her fans and family and friends that she had around her, she was still alone and had the ability to go and, however, nothing has been officially stated, but she killed herself.
I just watched a video. I just randomly came across it, an hour before we sat down here, that she had posted like a week or something before she died, where she was literally in tears pleading with somebody to be there for her. And I shouldn't have brought that up because I'm going to get choked up about it. But just seeing that, knowing that at that point she could have been helped. Yeah. And then a week or whatever it was later, it's over. There's no more helping her, And how many people are like that in your own life, where you get aggravated with them because they've always got a problem and they're always whining about it or getting into trouble because they're making bad choices, and you just take for granted that they're either going to get their shit together or you're just like, oh, that's just how they are. And then one day they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
Because it was too much for them. And you can't blame yourself either, because we all have our own stuff that we're trying to manage and keep our heads above water too, that sometimes you literally can't take on somebody else's problems also, It's just, there's such a fine line between, especially when you really are an empathetic person and not just the buzzword of empathy, but you really do feel it. It's hard to know when to pull back for your own well-being. But you're racked with guilt all the time. I see people posting and there's so much suffering. This person's sick, this person's dad's sick, this person had a family member who died, this person's dog just died, this person can't pay their bills because they lost their job. There's so much of it, and it feels so trite to just, throw out, oh, I'm thinking of you. I really am, but does that really do anything for you? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a helpless feeling, because there's only so much you can do, especially when you have your own, just trying to stay alive,
Yeah.
But
and I feel like I've, been that figure for a goodly part of my life.
Yeah.
I was certainly the source of worry for a good amount of my friends anyway. My family, not so much, because I was, they didn't really know, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
I was the oldest. I was the one that they looked to for help and guidance. So that was the figure I cut in that scenario. So I can't blame anyone in my family per se, but my circle of friends, I'm quite certain that a good amount of them were just like, what, he's nuts. It's Pete. He's nuts. Just,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Although I never actually went so far as pleading with anyone to be near me. I was quite the opposite. I would turn my phone off and make sure no one could find me for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
My
Kind of my MO too. Just
Yeah.
disappear. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the great Houdini when it comes to emotional relationships for the most part.
Yeah.
I think parenthood fixes that too.
For sure.
But there's I think an epidemic of silent suffering amongst people who create. And
It sure feels that way.
I can't ask my listenership to feel bad for, let's just pull a name out of a hat, like Lady Gaga, for example.
Right.
Because sure, she's rich and she's famous and she's affluent, but that woman also is a sexual assault survivor. You know, like she's got her own demons too.
Sure.
Little bit of empathy can go a very, very long way. And I'm very guilty of being hyperbolic and saying some less than wonderful things when it comes to people with money, especially because I'm a class warrior in my heart of hearts. But at the end of the day, unless you're that asshole that wrote that, racist rally cry country song very recently, I have empathy for just about everybody else to some degree or another,
Same. Like, I don't wish, I was going to say I don't wish ill on anybody, but there's some people that I wish would, if I don't believe in karma because I see too many, I just don't. But I wish for some people that it was true. Both sides of that, I guess. But I do actively try to think, okay, well, what is that person going through? Even people I don't like. That comes from someplace. Obviously, nobody's born evil in their core. All that shit comes from someplace. However, as a person with a functioning brain, you should be able to rise above that and not become an asshole.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have some asshole tendencies, but maybe don't screw everybody over for your own benefit. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but just trying, I guess maybe that's how my brain tries to make sense of why somebody could possibly be so awful.
Right.
There has to be a reason why that person is that awful.
Well, I think in all of these cases, be it a man or a woman who's awful or is someone who's suffering from something, the square root of all of that, somewhere along the line, is toxic masculinity on both sides. Because toxic masculinity turns innocent boys into toxic males.
Sure.
Who victimize, mostly, if they're straight males, women.
Yeah.
Even if they're not straight. A lot of victimization goes on, you know what I mean? And that's where the cycle kind of has its, alpha in toxic masculinity and rape culture. I know rape culture is a big buzzword again, but it's very true, because if you go back to even when, we're Gen Xers, when we were kids, it was perfectly acceptable for men to go around and grab women by the ass that you'd barely even know. That shit happened all the time. It wasn't cool, but it happened. And
then if you said anything, it was like, oh, just calm down. I'm just kidding. Or you know what I mean? It was no big deal or whatever.
Don't be prude, But,
and then dudes doing it to other guys too, because, I just had a friend make a post the other day about how they ran into their high school bully, and the guy tried to apologize to him because, but this guy had done, he essentially raped him. And now you want to apologize for it? So it's men on men also. And girls can most definitely be bullies also. Obviously.
Yeah, but they learn that from somewhere.
Of course.
On both sides. That's learned from a very dark kernel of toxic masculinity. Now, on the flip side of that, it's very easy to deprogram something like that too. And sadly, it starts with dads. If you're a shitty dad, the end result is going to be a shitty kid.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how well the child is mothered. If there's a shitty dad involved, it blows everything up. It throws off the balance. Even if there's like, you know, a same-sex marriage and they have a child, no matter what, if there's somebody is toxic in that soup, it's going to spoil the whole batch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't, even if even if it's not a mom or a dad and it's your grandma who's nurturing or your grandpa who's nurturing or whoever, you can't undo the damage that somebody else is doing at the same time. You can comfort the person after the fact and maybe help them to understand what's going on, but you can't erase. Like, words can't be unheard, actions can't be unfelt. And so, like, I live in a constant state of, I hope I'm not screwing my kid up. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this nonstop, like, am I doing enough? Am I spending enough time doing this with him? I was impatient today. You know, it's just nonstop. Now, I've been told that the fact that you even worry about that probably means that you're a good parent. But
Yes,
like
it
in my head, I'm still like, yeah, but I could have done this. I could be doing that, you know. And then you see parents around you, and it's like they're constantly going here and they're going there and they're doing this and blah blah blah. And I'm like, we're at home watching television. I mean, not that we don't do stuff, but we're certainly not running all over the place and in this activity and that activity and going over here and doing this. And, you know, I'm reminded, of course, that that's not necessarily a good parent. That could also be an avoidant parent of like, well, I don't really want to deal with this, so let's distract ourselves by going over here and going. But it still makes me feel like, yeah, but my poor kid's like sitting at home doing nothing.
Well,
you know?
but I can speak to that too, because I grew up being stuck home doing nothing a lot. That the only thing that affected in me is my creativity. You know, I wasn't distracted 24/7. I mean, I was involved in things, especially athletics, and martial arts. But, you know, for the most part, I was home all the time. And when I was home all the time, I was either escaping to run around in the woods and go fishing, or I was writing or painting, you know. So I became an artist because I was shut in. You know?
Well, and I feel like when we were young, people did mostly stay at home. Like I almost feel like sometimes I feel like people are just out for their photo opportunities. Like, so they can post on social media, like, I took my kid here and we did this. And like, is it like, there has to be some of that in the back of the mind. Like you can't always be out doing something. Or if you are, you're avoiding something else or something. I don't like. There has to be more to it than just the love of running around. I don't know. And like kids, I feel like need to have that stability of the home.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, my kid certainly feels stable here. I mean, he runs the show, but you know, we have this. We have this way of kind of staying anchored to the home quite a bit because we're also older parents, you know, certainly long in the tooth to have a toddler, and still talking about having another one, but you know, we're probably going to do it. And I think it's okay. I mean, we still get Kanan out. He still does things. He's involved in things, but my whole life is not about running here and running there to make it look good. And I'm this great, you know, involved parent. I am involved because I'm with him all the time.
Same. I just feel bad sometimes because I'm like, is it because I'm older? I don't have the same you know, when you're young, you do run around all the time. But again, it's because it's almost like you're escaping your home because you're like, your parents are there and you want to go run around, or you're living in a crappy apartment you don't like, so you don't want to spend a whole lot of time there, or whatever. Or it's not there. Back in the day, there's nothing to do in the house besides watch TV. Like, so you go do things. But like now, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a balance.
I think that there's, I think when you're younger and you have the energy, you want to explore too. You're afraid, you're afraid you're missing out on something.
Right.
I think once I hit my 30s, I was like, I don't really care if I'm missing anything, whatever. So
once Mike and I moved into this house, it felt like, okay, we finally have our space.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being home. Like, I'm thrilled I don't have to drive into an office. I like to be home.
Yeah.
So
I wish I wish I could find a job where I can fully work from home, because every day I walk out of this place, I'm more terrified of reality. People, I think, are becoming more and more polarized, not only politically but emotionally. I feel like the world is in. I feel like I've done my son a disservice by having him in this era, because global warming. Look at you're in Arizona.
Definitely scares me.
It's Arizona, okay? It's hot in Arizona, but like, it's so fucking hot in the
This
West.
is next level. Yeah, this is next level.
It's I'm in the Northeast, in the woods. It's 90 degrees outside right now, and it's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on? And but the other big what the fuck's going on thing is
the 108. It's 7 o'clock.
Alien. Now they're being honest about aliens. Finally. We're in an era where Congress is having discussions about aliens and their existence, and highly decorated members of the military and intelligence community are coming out and saying, "Okay, yeah, we have biologics, we have bodies, we have ships, we have a ship the size of a football field." They have an off-world ship the size of a football field, 100 yards.
Yeah.
Why haven't they been telling us this the whole time? And I refuse to accept the fact that they say, oh, well, you know, people would panic or this or that, like it'd be riots in the streets. Not really. I think we've been ready for something like this.
I don't know, because Mike and I were talking about that too. First of all, I just started watching the hearings today because I've been behind. And I'm already like, holy crap. But like Mike and I were talking about that because I'm like, nobody's even talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know, if this would have come out like back in the 60s, people would have been completely, I mean, think about the War of the Worlds broadcast and like what that did to people. Yeah. And if they had actually come out and been like, oh yeah, we have all these crafts and here they are and here's these bodies and whatever. I don't know. People are so freaking jaded. Like, they're more interested in the fact that, you know, Hunter Biden's laptop has a dick pic on it.
Right.
You just heard there's aliens. You don't care about that? You're more concerned about someone's dick pic? Like, I don't get it.
Not to mention that this is the most bipartisan, like as far as like both sides being fully involved.
Right.
They're working in such harmony because they're talking about the potential for off-world beings to be a threat to humanity. And it reminds me of when Reagan had given that speech when, you know, you and I were pretty young.
Yeah.
Talking about how how the world would react if they were to find out that there were an off-world threat, an existential off-world threat.
Right.
That we would have no recourse but to band together as citizens of the planet.
Right.
The news doesn't want that.
Right.
The church doesn't want that. Because,
which is baffling.
Yeah, because us polarized is us controlled, is us not paying attention to what's really happening. And furthermore, the Catholic Church, it's my home church, it's where I'm from. I told you this before, the Catholic Church owns the biggest telescope in that particular hemisphere. It's the biggest telescope. It's at the Vatican. Because they know about this shit. They've known about this shit, and the only reason they won't let it slip or didn't want it to slip is because they were afraid people would stop coming to church. How alien existence negates God.
I never made sense of that either. To me, it doesn't. Neither does evolution. Doesn't either.
No, nor should it, because to me it proves that there's a greater intelligence in the design than previously thought.
Sure. Yeah. I've never understood the resistance to that mindset. I mean, I was thinking about this today too. I'm not a genius for thinking about this. This has been something that's commonly thought of, but it just kind of like dawned on me, I guess. Like, the way angels and stuff were described in the Bible sounds an awful lot like alien life forms.
Oh yeah. The book Chariots of the Gods. It was written by a former Catholic priest or Monsignor Eric von Däniken.
Yeah.
And he basically maps out how, these angelic sightings and, the chariots of fire and stuff like that.
Right.
They were
Wheels
UFOs.
in the sky.
Yeah, they were UFOs, man. And
so I keep thinking, like, because all the stuff that I have seen, the people that supposedly have met these alien beings and stuff, and there are some that are aggressive, but the majority of them are very peaceful. And I keep thinking, please come.
Yeah.
Fix all of this. Because, I keep thinking about how, like, on Star Trek and, like, all this stuff, how people kind of just live in this, like, truly cohabitational, like, whatever. And then there's things like, they can just take this wand and put it over your body and heal you. And, like, all the advanced genetic fixing they could do, or DNA, we're already starting this anyway, but like, maybe that all stems from alien.
Well,
who knows?
Think about this. Think about the fact that the true the Industrial Revolution happened and, far before this, but all of the greatest leaps in technology in our grandparents' lifetimes even, happened directly after the Roswell incident, because right after that is when computers started to make leaps and bounds.
Sure.
And we have made more strides technologically in the past 50 years than we have in the past 500.
Sure.
It's astounding.
And subsequently, our brains aren't even equipped to deal with it. Like, the fact that we can take in information and, like, so quickly, our brains aren't even trained to do that. And I think that's why so many people are frustrated and angry, because, it's kind of like when you leave a fan running on full blast, or an engine or whatever, eventually it kind of, like, runs rough and burns out. It's like, that's our brain is constantly processing. There's no downtime for it.
Yeah.
We can't take downtime. Like, especially in the United States, at least in Europe, they still get more vacation time. Like, we're trained monkeys over here. Like, you can't even, you're made to feel guilty for taking a day off just for fun. God forbid you not be sick on a day that you take off, right? Or, but we all have that mindset.
Yeah. And, it seems to me that if this truly shakes out the way it seems like it's going to, we're all going to have to take a step back and start to take very seriously a guy who built an entire musical career on dick and fart jokes, being, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182, because he is the catalyst for this shit.
I know, it's funny. I know. Mike talks about that all the time.
That goof, like, he really set this ball in motion.
No.
I gotta hand it to him.
I respect that. I may not like his music, but
Right.
I don't even know his music. Like,
no,
whatever.
and you don't have to. I mean, it's pretty by the numbers, descendants worshipping pop punk. But I'll be damned if that guy isn't brilliant. Because
him being curious, I guess, led to some pretty substantial shifts.
Well, he had an experience when he was a kid. And that turned into, he wrote songs about it on their first big album, their first major label album called Aliens Exist. And after a while, once Blink-182 had amassed a vast fortune, he started asking questions. And people started to take him seriously because he was asking the right questions and making alliances with the right people. Our kids and, our grandkids are going to be talking about the guy who wrote All the Small Things and not for his music. It's, to me, it speaks to, how uncanny reality is now.
It really, yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm in a movie. I feel like I'm in a movie, and it's not really as funny as it feels right now.
Like, the world is so small too, because just meeting people is so much easier. Like, the fact that when, if you had told 15-year-old me, you will have had conversations with this person, and that person and whatever, I would have been like, what? No, that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have. I mean, and even stupid stuff not stupid, but we went to this bar last night, this tap room called Tap Room 120. I'll give them a shout out. Mm-hmm. And because it's you would love this place, by the way. It's run by punks. They have punk music. They have horror stuff in there. They run old wrestling on the big screens. They have cartoons on the big screen. They have old sci-fi movies going. And last night they had this podcast come in called what are they called? Scaredy Cast. Another shout out. So we specifically went there that night because Brett from Audra had told us that's his friend's bar. But then also I had seen that they were having this podcast and we're interested in horror and supernatural and whatever. So we went last night. And we really enjoyed it. We had a really good time. The podcast, the people were really funny, entertaining. And there they are talking about Hellier, that show Hellier.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay, Tim did music on that show. And just this small world thing. And then I come home and I'm I'm just going to look them up on Instagram, friended them, having conversations with them. That shit didn't happen back in the day. You couldn't have access to people like that. You know what I mean? You would have been oh yeah, that was cool, but then that's where it would have ended.
It did on the macro because, as I'd said, I was pen pals with you guys way back in the day. I was pen pals with Trent Reznor at one point in 1990.
Yeah.
But it wasn't immediate, instantaneous access. I'm not writing you letters now. We just talk on the regular because that's what we do. But you know what I mean? You're right. It's not quite as novel,
Well, and then when you go ahead,
maybe that's a bad way to put it, but it's great because there's an ease of access, but also, to a degree, maybe it doesn't make it as, I don't know, to a 15-year-old me, maybe not as grandiose.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, it's pretty great.
Yeah. It's just such a strange thing because, you have some kid that lives in the middle of nowhere who can go online and potentially talk to their favorite artist or musician or model or actor or whoever and become friends with that person, and it could change their life. That's just bizarre to me and awesome. I mean, and I had that's how I met Jarbo. I wrote her a fan letter. I mean, that's how I met Mike.
Mm-hmm.
she just wrote me back. I continued to write her, and then as I got into music more, like we became friends, blah blah blah. But like it's just such a bizarre, like instantaneous. Like I still get like, oh my god, look, when you'll write a comment on some actor on their Instagram or whatever, and they'll like it, and I'm still like, oh my god, they liked it.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool thing. But then on the flip side of that, I think it's caused people to sort of also be a-holes, because they're like, well, you're a real person. The mystique is kind of gone, and I'm going to tell you how stupid you are, and I don't know.
You know what, though? I think for as damaging as that is, and especially to young people, that's very damaging. With the trolling and all that shit.
Yeah.
I get tons of trolls, tons. It doesn't bother me because I came from a different school completely than the young people of today.
Yeah.
I was basically an amateur pugilist up in these streets. You know what I mean? I was in fistfights constantly growing up. Words are not going to hurt me. I was raised by a Vietnam veteran. Like, fuck with me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Well, and back in the day, like, we really were hardcore bullied. So,
yes,
like,
we were.
And I just don't even want to deal with it. That's why, like, on my YouTube stuff, I turned all the comments off. I'm like, you know, most people are positive, but I don't even want to see, like, I'd rather not see 100 good comments to avoid the one bad one. Like, that's just how my brain works. Like, I don't even want to look at it. And so I'm like super quick to cut people off now. I hate it, and I don't like that, because I don't like dismissing people, I guess. But I also don't want it in my life, because all I do is sit around and stress out about it. And so I just cut people off now. But it's just, I don't like that you even have to go through that process.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I get a kick out of it occasionally when people will try to troll me, because I get to sharpen my skills of destroying people with my rhetoric, which is a ton of fun. But in the same token, I think to myself, like, these people, these trolls, they're sitting there and they're picking at you, but also, like, you see this person constantly popping up as a listener of my podcast.
Right.
This is a weekly listener, but they're giving me shit. So maybe they're just looking for someone, for some kind of some kind of connection, some validation. So
there's better ways.
There's better ways, certainly, but I forget what episode the person was talking about, but they were like, yeah, why don't you advertise yourself a little bit more at the beginning of episodes? And I immediately wrote right back in real time. I was like, how the fuck do you expect me to get any kind of advertisement if I don't advertise myself? If no one's listening to this, I'm throwing shit at a wall for no reason. I have to do this.
Yeah.
It's the name of the game. What else would you have me do?
Right.
And then I saw typing, stop. Typing, stop. Typing, stop. Then, you're right. I'm sorry. The end.
That's shocking. That's shocking. Yeah. Literally shocking, because most people dig their heels in instead of saying, you're right.
Yeah, and I paraphrased. I was probably a bit stronger in my verbiage, but really, that's the best you got.
Yeah, it feels like for me, it depends on what day someone hits me. If you hit me on the right day, I'll just ignore it. Hit me on the wrong day, I'm not a nice person. I have to work at being a nice person. Not really. Kind of, but not really.
I have to work at being a nice person sometimes.
I don't have to work as hard at it now as I used to have to work at it. Now I just kind of seethe inside and let it go. Or hold on to it, but don't tell anybody about it. But, I don't usually put up with stuff.
And in real life, I'm worse, sadly, especially in the workplace, being that I work with primarily men in a construction type field. I work with a lot of older men who are definitely Trumpers. And whenever they like to get mouthy, they like to yell. And one of those old men tried to yell at me on this past Thursday, and he turned a lighter shade of pale, to quote a song.
He fucked around and found out.
He fucked around and consequently found out, because I was like within millimeters of his face, just allowing him.
I'd love to see that.
Oh,
that's satisfying.
I get scary though. I mean, my boss has even told me, like, I've seen you lose your temper. You scare me. I said, good, I should scare you. And that's how that usually
Well, how about don't push me that far then?
Yeah, just stay out of my face. It's easy. It's really easy.
Yeah.
But I do need to kind of tone it down, because it's not the 90s anymore. And, you know, I can't necessarily get into a fist fight on a job site now and, you know, retain employment.
I'm grateful that it doesn't usually, like, I'm super grateful that I don't normally get that worked up about things, to be honest with you. But, you know, it took a lot of biting my tongue, because I very much can be like a pit bull and latch onto things.
With me, I mean, it's going back to that.
It's usually about other people, though. It's like I'm defending somebody else. It's never, like, for me, I'm like, yeah, abuse me, whatever, I don't give a fuck. But do it to somebody else, and that's what triggers me. But anyway.
With me, it goes back to, like, it's a callback to earlier conversation here, the toxic masculinity that I was, you know, raised with, as most of us in our age group were raised with. My dad was a very toxic male, you know. I was reared in that. So how do you express masculinity and dominance in a situation with other men? You speak that language. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it at all. And that little boy in the room next is not going to learn that from me.
Yeah.
He's never going to see that side of me.
Yeah.
He barely hears me yell. I'm a soft touch at home, but
yeah,
fuck with me outside of this house, and it's a whole different. I'm still that dude. But you know, I don't know. There's that part of me that abhors violence.
Yeah.
But there's also that part of me that once I'm there, once I've reached that seeing red level, I don't have a stop button. There's no pause. I just go, and I don't like that. I don't like feeling like that.
Yeah, it's an awful feeling. It's like, you know, I have that Aries quick temper, but I also control it, and it's usually more self-directed than anywhere else. But if you've pushed me that far to be angry like that, then I'm just done with you. Like, why would I want that? Like, if you've made me so angry that I can't control myself, it's on you, because I will take it and take it and take it, and then it's like that one step too far, and it's done. You know? But thankfully, this does not happen very often. But once in a while, someone will just. It just happened. Actually, it just happened last week. You know how I feel like we've talked about this before. There's people that they only ever say something snarky or sarcastic or something negative. They never interact with you online where it's positive. It's always like they're making a smart ass comment. They're being negative. They're critical. Everything's negative. And finally, this one person kept doing it. And I'll be honest.
I remember this.
I didn't even like him. First of all, this is an awful thing to say, but I didn't really like him anyways, based on things from back in the day. But I'm like, you know what? I'm very capable of letting things go, as evidenced by the fact that Dave and I have a great relationship. I was friends with ex-boyfriends who were horrible to me. I let things go. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. If you're cool, you're cool. It's good. We're good. But just constant nitpicking. Finally, I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't need this. Why am I putting up with this petty tyrant in my life? And so I just like ended up like block, done, not dealing with this anymore. And it felt good. It felt real good.
You know,
but I don't like to do that though.
But there's something satisfying about not blowing up, not getting worked up about it. Just poof, be gone. There's something very powerful about that, because you know that person is looking for that. That's
clearly
the reaction that they require in order to feel anything. Yeah, like they need that sort of interaction, that negativity, because they weren't hugged enough, or their dad smacked an ice cream cone out of their hand or some shit.
Right.
To just disappear. That's a beautiful thing. That's a powerful thing.
It's like, why are we continuing with this farce? You clearly don't like me, or you would do more than just be negative. What is this stupidity? Like, what is this idiotic relationship?
Yeah.
And anyway, it's over. But but I don't like doing it, because like I said, I'm long suffering. That's why I don't say anything and ignore it, or I'll give it back to you or whatever. But then it comes to a point where you're just like, nope, not doing this anymore.
That's healthier than the way I deal with things. I can tell you that.
Well,
so what did you glean from watching the congressional hearings? Because the one thing I have not a piss taking about, but I'm a little disappointed about, is the focal point of the whole thing were, three people that at one point or another have already been vocal about this thing. I know in the future that the one gentleman dropped names and phone numbers of people who can corroborate things and are probably not going to want to speak out, but they're going to be subpoenaed. I'm really bummed that that's all they had at this time, and they spent that much time on so few witnesses when they could have really pulled out all the stops. That was my one piss taking with it.
so I'm not that far into it, because I turned it on mid-afternoon today as I was working. And then, of course, you get distracted by having to stop it and pay attention to what you're doing. And, Dirk coming in and ask me a question, blah, 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 blah. So I didn't get that far into day one. But out of the gate, I think the thing that made me literally drop my jaw was, drop my jaw. That weird. Was the football field sized ship. And I literally was like, how are they talking about all of this stuff and nobody's freaked out? I mean, and like the other part where the guy was talking about the Tic Tac video, but there was also something in the ocean, in the water.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said to Mike, because he was out here too, and I'm like, it's not like they're talking to some like weird random Yahoo off the street. Like, these guys aren't gonna do this in front of Congress and lie about it, because there's repercussions for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so that, I think that's kind of what blows my mind, is that they're so blatantly talking about stuff that previously was like stuff you'd listen to on Art Bell and just be like, well, maybe this person's telling the truth, maybe they're not telling the truth, or stuff you watch on Ancient Aliens, or whatever. And I'm like, no, these guys are literally testifying in front of Congress. They could get in big trouble, and then they start talking about the threats on their lives and all, and I'm just, that's what's gotten me so far. But so I'm not far enough into it to have gotten to the frustrating part that you're talking about yet. I will say that I get a little irritated when certain members of Congress start throwing up about stuff like, the Biden administration and the Chinese balloon, and I'm just like, can we just not not do that right now?
Well, the Republican that spearheaded this whole thing, who he's very cool for having done this, but
right,
he would make these like comments out of the side of his head about like, well, I'm talking about the Tic Tac video, not the communist app TikTok.
Oh yeah, stuff like that. That was irritating too.
Put that shit away. Like,
I know.
We're not here for your fucked up politics. We're here for the truth, not your goofed up.
We don't want to. We don't care about that. Like you said, it was supposed to be bipartisan. Leave it bipartisan. Stop with that horse shit crap. Another thing, though, I did think was funny is Andy Biggs, who's our congressman or whatever. I can't. Obviously, I can't stand him. First of all, he should probably be in jail. Let's just call it what it is. But anyway, I loved the fact that he brought up the Phoenix Lights and was like, "Where can I get the report on this?" And the guy's like, "Well, I can tell you privately. I can't."
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought that was pretty cool. We live here and everything, and like the Phoenix Lights was such a huge thing. And at the time, like all the crap that the governor came out with an alien costume and like all that crap that happened. And then, of course, down the line, he was like, "Yeah, I saw it too," But so that was kind of cool. I liked that. And I'm like, boy, can you imagine if we found out, like if we really did, like, because they're all talking about, like, we need to release this information so that everybody knows. I'm like, that's awesome. Can you imagine finally getting answers? But also on the flip side of that, that might be terrifying.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Where you guys are right now is a part of, like, a UFO cluster, like a hotspot cluster.
Yeah.
Sedona's a hot spot. Tempe is a hot spot. They're all dotted all along the desert. It's just and it's active as hell. On the flip side, here in the Northeast, the site of the largest North American UFO crash is about 6 miles from my house.
That's amazing.
Like things are ramping up, and this isn't just me talking about my normal like spooky stuff. Yeah. This is stuff that like it's been on. Jeremy Corbell.
I don't know that name.
He's basically the preeminent ufologist right now. Okay. He was at those hearings. You could see him in the crowd in the background.
Okay.
He's involved with Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. Okay. He's involved with a ton of people. He was here to see that crash, and the scientist that he had with him, who was taking Geiger counter readings and picking up all this radiation, ended up with radiation burns on his arms from getting too close to this crash site.
Okay.
And they said this was the most authentic and most massive crash site that they'd ever seen. What I want to know is where's the shrapnel? Where are the bits and pieces? Why are we just getting like scorched earth and radiation? Where did it all go? Like I can tell you where, because the Army depot is right there. But like these are the things, like when we start to find out about the truth about all of this, the shocking part's not going to be the aliens or their intentions. It's going to be how far our own government that we subsidize went to keep it from our sight. That's the part that's going to blow everybody's mind. They're going to finally figure out you can't trust these fucking people.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. So, like, do you remember the TV show V, that miniseries?
Yeah, of course.
Back in the day?
The Star Child.
I often think about this because, like, one day life, I mean, this has happened in a million sci-fi films. One day life is like normal, and the next day the ships show up and everything is changed forever. I mean, War of the Worlds, like all these, movies that we've had all these decades. Like, that's literally going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Like life is going to be normal, but it's going to be this theoretical alien thing, and then they're going to be here, like for real, even though I'm sure they already are.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we've had experiences. Last winter, I know without a shadow of a doubt, we saw a UFO. There's zero explanation otherwise. And I talked to MUFON about it. They did their research and stuff, and they're like, there's nothing that could have been. So it's unidentified.
Mm-hmm.
I have no explanation for that. You know? I won't speak for other people and what they saw, but likewise, no explanation for that. And I'm like, so it's been a real thing. I mean, first of all, I always kind of, you believe in it, but there's never been any hard evidence. But when you see something with your own eyes, you can't refute it anymore. You can't, it's not a theoretical anymore. It's what it was. I don't know what it was. I know it's not anything normal. And then I start thinking, Mike and I were talking about this the other day, and I'm like, think of how frustrating it is for people when they have these experiences that are real, and then someone comes along and tells them, no, that wasn't real. Like, that didn't really happen. That was something else. You imagined it. It was birds. It was, whatever. Even to the supernatural stuff, which is what we normally talk about, where you feel the hand on you, you feel it, like plain as day, or you see the thing, or you hear the thing, or whatever, and then someone's telling you, no, that was your imagination. Like, bitch, I felt the hand on my arm. That wasn't my imagination. I'm not on drugs.
My favorite part of that is the people who say that shit are usually like militantly Christian. So you believe that,
right?
A beast with 7 heads and 10 cornets on each head came from the lake, and like all of the like obviously hyper realistic supernatural things that transpire in the body of the Bible.
Right.
You buy that because it happened back then. Is there like a premium on when strange shit can happen? Only in the time of the Old Testament up to the death and resurrection of Christ, and then it's null and void. Everything got mad normal after that.
Right. It's just all stopped. Right.
It's ridiculous.
And my question to that would be, do you really believe that? Because if you really believe that, then you should also allow for other people to have their experiences.
Yeah. And big surprise, Christian Pete here does not, I think most of the Bible's allegory. I'm sorry. I do. It's an allegory.
It's called metaphor.
Yeah. Especially the Old Testament. That's just like, basically they didn't have, movies back then. There was no cinema to go to.
Right.
And so there's no Star Wars to see, so you can't glean, your morals from a movie, so you're going to have it out of a book.
I always just felt, even like we were talking earlier about the whole creation versus evolution thing, I always felt like creation is sort of the poetic, beautiful description and of creation, and evolution is the scientific. Like, they're the same thing. They're just one of it is written artistically, one of it is written like math.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah,
it's not that complicated to figure out.
I still have people like very, very, very close to me who will argue me into the ground. We didn't come from monkeys. We didn't come from monkeys. I don't know. I can't believe you believe we came from monkeys. It's like, well, we did or we didn't. I wasn't there, but the probability's there.
Right. I mean, considering you can see, even even evolution in dogs.
Yeah.
And that's a short period of time that you can see how dogs evolved from. Like, it's not that complicated.
Well,
and why are you such a snob that Adam and Eve as more ape-like isn't good enough for you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you such a snob?
Well, here's the thing. The argument I always get back is, if we came from monkeys, why? If we came from great apes, because that's what we did come from.
Sure.
Why are there still great apes and monkeys? Because they didn't have to go any further. They were perfect as they were.
Yeah.
We came from supposedly Australopithecus. That is the primate that became human.
Mm-hmm.
They were water monkeys or water apes. They were apes that were semi-aquatic. They liked to swim. They did stuff that most great apes didn't do. They had to get better at fishing. They had to get better at everything because they were in places that were flooding out. They were forced to evolve. Time goes on, walking upright became us. We got worse. Let's face facts. I mean, we created art and literature and music and all these beautiful things, but we also created the pickle that we're in with our planet right now.
Right.
So maybe we went a little too far, but
that's where the aliens come in.
That's where the aliens come in. I do have an alternate theory on us coming from Australopithecus too. Maybe it is more like that Ridley Scott Alien sequel, where the big whacked out looking goth looking bald alien comes out and opens up a pot and sparks life onto the planet. It could have gone down like that too.
Sure.
But that's not sexy.
Right.
I would rather the Bible.
What's that? What is the oh my God. The movie with James Spader with the gate, and it's like ancient
Stargate.
Stargate. Maybe it's like more like Stargate, I don't know. Because that's pretty sexy. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. And I'm surprised that you mentioned James Spader before Kurt Russell. That's interesting.
Maybe that's how my brain works. Well, I guess because his character maybe is more, I identify more with him in that movie than I do Kurt Russell.
He was the intellectual. Kurt Russell was the soldier.
Yeah. That's a great film. We watched it about a year ago. Again, we've seen it before, but yeah, that's a good film.
They missed the mark with the sequels. They should have spent more money.
Didn't even know there were any.
Yeah, oh yeah. There was a series, Stargate Atlantis, and then Stargate SG.
Oh, the TV show.
Yeah.
The TV show. Okay, yeah, I didn't watch any of those.
Wasn't
Jason Momoa on one of those?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I should revisit that.
Every woman I know with Jason Momoa. Oh man, that guy. But you could get into a wormhole with it, but at the end of the day, if we were to really be handed the truth, 90% of us wouldn't buy it anyway.
I agree. Yeah, it's true. For God's sake, even stupid shit over medicine, people are like, that's gonna corrupt my, whatever. We don't need to go down that road again. But people, you could hand them a math problem that is factually sound as proof of something, and they still fake news.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's all fake. It's all fake news.
Yep. It's all just a conspiracy. You got it. Yep.
But
it's a distraction. That's what I saw. I made a post earlier about I wish people would just shut up, because I was reading stuff about the hearings and everything, and all these people in the comments are like, this is just a distraction. A distraction from what? What do you, just shut up.
How is it a distraction when it doesn't even come up in the top 20
exactly
things in my news feed? And I mean, you know what I'm into. This should be number one in my news feed. This should be the thing that shows up. But what's showing up is new charges against Trump, Putin, and the summit for grain, because he's trying to stop the dissemination of grain from the Ukraine. Everything else. There was stuff about Kim fucking Kardashian, but nothing about these hearings. The only reason
I didn't know about it.
I told you about it, and the only reason I knew is because I follow that Corbell gentleman.
Yeah.
Who's all tied in with the Gaia TV network and Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Incorporated and everything. So I was well abreast that this was going to occur. Otherwise, had I been relying upon what Apple News decides to populate into my newsfeed,
right,
I'd have been fucked. I wouldn't have known for months.
Yeah. Well, and Durkich said, there's people on TikTok talking about aliens and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, whatever, TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, don't believe everything you see. And then, but he had sent me a video of some kid talking about it, and then followed up with a video that was like an official announcement about it. And then, like, within a short amount of time, you said, did you see the thing yesterday? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Because I'd already forgotten all about it.
Mm.
And then you sent me that link, but
I'm telling you, there's a very very deliberate reason why it doesn't get populated into everything, and that's because it's not a distraction. What we see on a daily basis, like about the stuff going on with Donald Trump, for example, let's face it, he's never going to be put in jail. He's never going to be found guilty. They're going to let him slide, not because he was a good politician, not because he's even a politician or anything of that sort. He's got money. He's got the complexion. He's got everything on his side to get away with murder.
And they're probably terrified of what would happen if he actually did get convicted.
Yeah, January 6th, part 2.
Yeah. I saw a headline where the Secret Service and somebody else had to have a meeting about that, because they're already making plans about what's going to happen when whatever goes down. But
because they just brought new charges against him because they found more evidence. They could find evidence, and that whack job said it on national television. I could walk down, Broadway or whatever in New York City and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't even get arrested.
Yeah.
And he's fucking right.
Yeah, I still have to be the eternal optimist and hope that. And I don't care what side they're on. If you're doing this stuff, you need to be held accountable for it. I don't care what political party you belong to. It's not right, and you should be held accountable for it. But we know how that goes.
Yeah, sadly, I do. On a kind of lighter note, there's hallmarks of Great Awakening written all over this, because in all of these times of like ultimate strife of division in the country, something phenomenal always seems to follow that.
I hope so.
You know what I'm saying? The Vietnam War bore the fruit of civil rights, like the dissolution of Jim Crow and civil rights being, a focal point in the nation. Great music came of it, just as it did after World War II, after World War I. All these times of intense strife in the world are followed by a time of enlightenment. So that tells me that after having kind of survived Trump and the disappointment of what I thought the presidency of Obama would have been, because I hung so much hope on that man, and ultimately he sadly got corrupted like every president does, and we should never ever edify a president because they're just men, and once you get ultimate power you're corrupted ultimately. But after all this shit, after basically witnessing the death of thousands of species of creatures and fossil fuels corrupting the earth, and the worst person to ever have considered becoming president, now we're finding out the truth that we've all been suspicious of about life on other planets and us having UFOs around, and something good's got to come. That little optimist that takes up maybe like a 200th of who I am has to believe that something great is on the other side of this.
I hope so. I know there's been more than one occasion where I've prayed, just please let them come.
Shout out to the book of Very Bad Things. Spooky happenings, UFOs, post-punk, dark wave, synth wave, all good stuff. A la carte Records loves you. Thanks for having us on. Happy 100th episode.
Oh, this has been such a pleasure. All of you sending me in these lovely messages to pass along. I really appreciate it, each and every one of you. It's just amazing to me that you care. And I love you all for it. We'll be back in a day's time. You're not going to have to wait a whole week, just a couple days, for episode 100. Part 2. Until then, they've been Mike and Tara of LYCI. I've been Peter. You've been beautiful. And this has been the Book of Very, Very Bad Things podcast. Take care, everybody. I'll see you very soon.
Hi, I'm just out here doing cool year labor stuff, like going for a walk, and I wanted to say a massive congratulations to Peter from the Book of Very, Very Bad Things on his 100th podcast episode. Get away from me, B. I don't have time for this. You are amazing to listen to because you know your stuff and you dive deep with incredible guests that are doing exciting things. I am honored to have been a part of it, and I'm a fan. So please keep doing it. I think the best is yet to come, and congrats. See ya.